Welcome to the Hidden Philanthropist podcast, proudly presented by the Purdie Foundation. Join us as we uncover the art of giving back.
Podcast listeners, our guest today is not without notoriety or controversy. Whether or not you support the way he has navigated his path in life, there is no denying that Dr Charlie Teo saves lives. A captivating individual, Charlie is outspoken, driven, but super passionate. He's wholeheartedly committed to the research and treatment of brain cancer, and he is deeply connected to his patients and their families. I hope you enjoy hearing this story as much as I did. First and foremost, welcome Professor Charlie Teo.
Thank you.
To my podcast. For the people out there, everyone in Australia knows who you are. Maybe for the people out there that don't know just quite how decorated your career has been. Member of the Order of Australia, you run a fellowship program that attracts over 600 applicants yearly, and you've trained many of the world's leading figures in neurosurgery. Quite incredible in itself. You've been published in over 120 peer-reviewed journals. You've authored 2 books on keyhole approaches to brain tumours, and you've featured as a guest editor for several journals, amongst many other things that I'll talk about later. I guess the list goes on and on. Outside of this incredible career, you also have an amazing philanthropic journey that you're on with your foundation. So today I'd love to learn a little bit about you and a little bit about your amazing career and a lot about your philanthropic journey. So with so many incredible things that you've achieved both in your career as a neurosurgeon and philanthropically, there's a lot to talk about. Where did the journey start for a young Charlie? What did your childhood look like?
Well, I'd like to say something first, if you don't mind, and that is thank you very much for trying to highlight and underscore something that I think is very important, and that's philanthropy and generosity. How many interviews have I done? I've totally lost count. It'd be in the thousands. And never has anyone ever wanted to concentrate on philanthropy, its importance for society, or the way it defines a person or an individual. So all credit to you, Andrew, for actually highlighting the importance of something like this. So thank you very much. Again, no one has ever asked me about it. It's something I always want to talk about, but no one wants to hear about it. So I really commend you for taking on a challenging subject because, as you've correctly said in the past, everyone hears all these bad stories and nasty stories and murders and crimes and stuff. It seems to capture people's attention, and all the nice stories don't seem to capture their attention. So somehow you have identified it as something that's very important and tried to disseminate that whole philosophy, which I really commend you for.
It's a crazy theory, isn't it, that out of all these amazing people that do amazing things, there's an old saying that bad press is printed in large font on the front page and good press is printed in small font inside the back page. And that's true, isn't it?
It's so sad. Yeah. Yes. No, exactly. Oh, it really is. I was lucky enough to have dinner with Alan Jones once, and whether you like him or don't like him, the fact is that you don't hear about all his generosity. He gets all these emails every day and letters every day. He replies to them. That is generosity of time. And then all the money he donates to charities, you never hear about it. All you hear about is controversial part of him and then some nasty stories about him. But it just baffled me that when I was having dinner with him and hearing about all the stuff that he did, why don't people hear about that? And then they maybe look at him a different light and judge him differently. Anyway, so look, I just thought I'd say that, Andrew. Congratulations and thank you very much. It's very commendable.
Well, coming from you, who's done so many incredible things in the philanthropic space, it means a lot to me. So thank you, mate.
Okay, so Charlie Teo, the person. Well, most people want to know about that. I always go back to my mum because she was very much an instrumental part of the person who I am. Her command of English wasn't so good because her first language was Chinese. She came from Singapore. And she'd get proverbs wrong. And she'd try and teach me these proverbs, but in broken English. And so I will never forget things like, it's better to give than to receive. And she couldn't quite get that word out, but that was a general gist of what she was trying to say. And so a lot of it came from her teachings and her philosophy, even though it was in broken English. That's where it all started, I think.
It's amazing that you bring that into the story even thus far, albeit we're at the start of it. And the reason I say it is that I know for a fact for me, as I look back on what's defined me and made me the person I am, I grew up in a single-parent, low-income family with my mum. And it was certainly my mum's work ethic and her empathy to us kids and her empathy to other people that I saw growing up formed a lot of my traits today. So, I would imagine that your mother was quite amazing.
She was, because My dad wasn't so generous, and they divorced at a very early age. So it was basically being raised by a single mother. He didn't support us very well at all, so she worked as a kitchen hand to try and put me through school. And I will never forget, Andrew, almost every week, without fail, maybe even 2 or 3 times a week, there'd be a huge pot of fried rice on the oven that she'd be cooking for someone. Some event, she'd always give a big bowl of fried rice, pot of fried rice to the local mechanic who fixed a car. I remember a guy came in and painted one of the rooms, and she was so generous in her time and her money, what little money she had. It was just part of her nature. So I grew up thinking that's normal. I mean, I never thought that you wouldn't do something like that in appreciation of someone's efforts or just to show that you care for someone. It was part of my growing up.
And was it a difficult childhood at times? You mentioned before your parents separated when you were young.
Oh, I had a terrible childhood. So my father was quite abusive. He beat the crap out of me. Then they divorced, and even then he tried to come back and get me to have a relationship with him, but I didn't want to. He'd try and force it upon me, and if I didn't, he'd beat me up. I remember he broke my lip once and sent my teeth through my chin, and it was terrible. And then, of course, being Chinese in a very, very non-Asian society, there were only 2 of us Chinese at my school. You couldn't go out in public without being jeered or mocked for being Asian. And so I used to always go home and think, gee, how can I stop myself looking so Asian? Because I knew that I would be the brunt of some sort of mockery once I went out into public. We never had enough money. I can't remember one single school holiday where I didn't have to work as a Bowser boy or doing the milk run or doing something just to get a bit of pocket money, things like that. So, I mean, I'm not complaining about it. It's certainly character building and it makes you who you are.
You know what, I was actually about to ask you, how much of that hardship and the difficulties growing up do you think have influenced you and had a dramatic impact on both the father you are today? You're a father of 4 beautiful girls, and not only shaped you as a father, but shaped you as the man you are today. There's such a hard childhood would have had a huge influence on it.
It's really funny. The sociologist in me would say a lot of it has shaped who I am. But the scientist in me, unfortunately, says the more we study the brain, the more we realise that nature and nurture are no longer equal forces in the way people grow up and what they become. It's looking more and more like genes, and nature is more instrumental in someone's eventual makeup than nurture. So I'd like to think that all those things moulded me, but it was probably a lot of the genetic makeup from my mum, who was naturally generous and charitable, and that probably was passed on, actually. You know, Andrew, they've actually identified a gene that codes for generosity and charity.
Really?
Yeah. Some people just don't have it. They don't have the gene. They're not bad people.
They're not. The gene.
They just don't have the gene for charity and generosity. Yeah, it's not in them.
So from a hard childhood, you've obviously gone on to further education. How did the transition from poverty and such hardship at school into further education look from you?
I live a very Spartan life. So, yes, doctors make good money, neurosurgeons make good money. I am certainly not wanting, but I still live that very Spartan life. I mean, I don't have a car. I've only got a motorbike. After my divorce, I moved into a housing commission 2-bedroom apartment. It was ugly and had no sort of luxuries about it, but it was fine with me.
So before I move on to Professor Charlie Teo, the neurosurgeon, you've finished your education. You are into a successful career now, but I still want to refer back to your life for 1 minute. What do you do in your spare time for Charlie? What do you do to fill up your own cup?
It's dynamic. So it used to be every spare minute of the day I'd spend with the girls, and either taking them to the park, playing with them, or taking them on an experience, or taking them overseas, or just spending time with them. Now they're all grown up and they don't want to spend time with me, so I've got to find other things to do. And exercise is very much on the list, high up on the list.
It always has been, hasn't it?
It has been. Escapism. I mean, I like watching movies that are sort of escapist type movies, Matt Damon type, Tom Cruise type movies. The Bourne series. Yeah, I mean, some people say it's quite banal, but I think it's just a great way of escaping reality.
You love your movies, and I don't need to ask you about reading. I already know. I've done a small amount of research. I already know what your favourite book is. What an absolute classic answer that was. What is your favourite book, Matt?
No, look, the answer to that was like my own book, and
I loved it.
No, I don't read. Everyone thinks I'm an intellect and because I'm a brain surgeon, but I'm not. I have great talents in terms of looking after patients and operating, but one of my talents is not being intellectual. I have an inquisitive mind, but I don't read enough. I know I don't read enough. And so that is certainly not one of my pastimes. I'd like it to be, but it's not. I like movies, being very active, keeping fit, spending time with my loved ones.
And I've heard you say before, you're obviously not into reading. However, it plays some form of part. It's a fairly integral part of when you do read, that you use that time to be reading information to keep you at the forefront of neurosurgery. So I guess if you hate reading and you've got to do a bit of it, that probably chews up all of that.
You do, you know. I think it's a responsibility to your patients, not only to be physically fit and mentally focused, but also to be updated with all the latest knowledge. So it's something that I take very seriously, what I do like keeping up to date with all the latest stuff.
So we've touched on your 4 beautiful kids and your life and your childhood, which ultimately it's incredible that you've ended up where you have ended up and you've done the amazing things that you've done. Now on to Professor Charlie Teo, the neurosurgeon. When you finished school, was a career in medicine, in the medical field, always in your sights?
Yes and no. I watched Dr Kildare on TV. I kind of liked what he did. But no, there was all these other childhood dreams I had. I wanted to be a bouncer. I wanted to be a security consultant. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a politician. I wanted to be the leader of the world, free world. I wanted to be an actor. There was all sorts of other things I wanted to do. And medicine was on the list, I guess, but it was certainly not at the top of the list.
Do you think when they put your face up now on media platforms that people think bouncer and black belt in karate?
Well, they ought to. I'm a mug. But no, I love my career in karate, and I was a bouncer, I'm sure you've read, for about 8 years, and taught karate for many years, and yeah, I enjoyed that part of my life.
Yeah. I was a bouncer for many years when I finished high school while I was doing my apprenticeship in my trade. Why brain cancer?
Well, it was serendipitous. I didn't like neurosurgery. I thought it was too challenging, too unforgiving, and so I chose a career in pediatric surgery because I loved kids and I loved surgery and doing things with my hands. And I was serendipitously thrust into neurosurgery, having initially been scared of it and quite apprehensive about any neurosurgical patient. And then, I was asked to cover the neurosurgery registrar's job for about 6 months, and I just fell in love with it once I was thrust into it, forced into it. Why brain cancer? Well, again, almost serendipitous, because I came back from America as a pediatric neurosurgeon, doing all sorts of pediatric neurosurgery cases, spine, congenital abnormalities, brain tumours. But the Australian Neurosurgical Society wasn't ready for me. They weren't ready for subspecialisation. It was too small a population. And to quote one of the leading neurosurgeons at the time when I came back and said I wanted to concentrate on paediatric neurosurgery, he goes, "Charlie, we all like dabbling in that." So I was forced to just put out my shingles and accept what came through the door. So what came through the door were all these cases that had been rejected by other people as being too hard, too risky, inoperable. And I looked at them and thought, well, hang on, I can do that. That doesn't look risky to me. And so I would do them, and soon it became my calling card. Soon with those cases, they went to the media and said, "This is a great story. I was told that I had an inoperable tumour, I was going to die. This guy took it out. You should do a story on it." So I didn't shirk away from the media. I didn't reject them. I thought, oh, well, yeah, fine, let's do it. And then one thing after another, every media story gave me more business. More people would hear about me because I wasn't getting referrals from other doctors or anyone else. So there was this positive affirmation, a positive cycle of me doing a good case, being lauded by the media, and then that making more people aware of me, and then me saving more lives. And so that positive cycle just kept going and going and going. I have been accused, as you know, many times sort of seducing the media and going out there and getting them to do stories on me. That is absolutely not the case. I have never once asked to be on some sort of program or the media. They've always approached me and I've never said no.
You've had an amazing career, highly decorated career. And again, repeating myself, you're loved by the people. Yet you've admitted by your own admission that you've said previously that you've been sidelined by your peers. Why is that? Is it the tall poppy syndrome at play, which is so common in Australia? Why have you been sidelined, do you think, by your peers at times? Is it this maverick approach?
I think it's multifactorial. One thing, of course, is that Australian culture of the tall poppy syndrome. That's only one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is that I haven't eaten humble pie. And so I have to take a lot of the blame myself. And that is that I know I'm good. I don't try and say I'm not. And I take on cases that others wouldn't take on. And I know that's going to make them look bad. My intention is not to make them look bad, but I know it will. A lot of doctors who may be as talented as me will go, well, I'm not going to do that case because I know it'll piss off my colleagues. And so they back off. And so the fact that I don't back off, that I don't reject the media, tall poppy syndrome, maybe being Asian has something to do with it, I don't know. The fact that I'm so celebrated overseas, that must sort of make them very jealous as well. I don't know. All I know is that it's a whole combination of things, because there's no other person, I don't think, in the history of Australian medicine that's ever been as hated by their colleagues as me, and has never had the vilification, the persecution over more than 2 decades that I've had. So there must be something I'm doing wrong. It's not just the Australian culture of tall poppy syndrome. It must be, me as well.
You referenced something before about taking on cases that other neurosurgeons wouldn't take on. And this is from an uneducated perspective, but simply from a humane perspective. This is a loaded question. Is there other neurosurgeons out there that are as good as you?
Oh, absolutely.
So if there was even 1 in 100 chance that you could save someone's life by operating, why wouldn't you take the case on? Why do you take it on? Why won't they?
It's all about self-preservation. Look what's happened to me. The worst thing that's happened to me is not what's happened to me by my colleagues, but the clear message it sends out. The message it sends out to young neurosurgeons and other doctors of any discipline is that if you try and push the envelope, if you try and buck the system, if you don't toe the party line, if you respect patient autonomy more than consensus or evidence-based medicine, this is what's going to happen to you. We're going to get gun for you, and we're eventually going to get you.
But you pushing boundaries have saved people's lives.
Yeah, but that's inconsequential. There are 2 things that will drive someone. One is self-preservation, and the other is the preservation of their patient. Now, I was taught very clearly that once you join medicine, your patient comes first, not you, not your family, not your wallet, not your reputation, nothing else. The patient comes first. And so it's never been hard for me to make those decisions. I've always put the patient first, but I've paid a very, very expensive price for that. I've paid a dear price for that.
And moving on past that, on to now the incredible things that you do within your industry. And Charlie, I'll put to you, and it's probably something to think about before you answer, but every time you go into surgery, there's a child's parent sitting out in that waiting room, and they're waiting for their life-changing moment. And that ultimately is you coming out and letting them know whether the surgery's been a success or not, and whether their child's going to survive. That is a massive burden, a massive responsibility for you to carry. How do you do it?
It's very simple. You treat that child like you would your own child, and you can't go wrong that way. All those other things that influence decision-making in surgery fall into insignificance if your primary goal is to treat that patient as one of your own loved ones. So, unfortunately, as a doctor, you are influenced by a lot of things. You're worried about being sued. You're worried about putting food on the table. You're worried about your reputation if you get a bad outcome. You're worried about adoration of your colleagues. You're worried about whether the case is going to finish in time or whatever. So if you let any of those things drive your decision-making, then if you have a bad outcome, I don't know how people live with that. I really don't. But if you have a bad outcome, but you've done everything you can in the patient's best interest and treated that patient like your own daughter, then you can accept it. You can accept a bad outcome. Yeah. If you hurt the patient, you can say, well, I did it under all the right circumstances. I wasn't hurrying. I wasn't doing it because I wanted to prove something. I did it because I loved that patient like my own child, and I was trying to do the best I could.
You talk about loving that patient like your own child, and I would imagine your relationships with these children and their parents is a vital part of your treatment program and also your program leading up to their surgery. Do you always become emotionally involved in the journey, or have you got a way that you can emotionally detach yourself from the process?
No, always emotionally involved. I'm emotionally involved in that I am, like I say, I treat the patient not just like a patient or a number or a case. As I'm operating, I think to myself, because believe me, things get very difficult in brain surgery, bleeding and the fear of damaging normal brain. And sometimes if you didn't think of that person as a loved one or as a person and just a case, it'd be easy to pull out. Oh my God, it's getting too risky. Oh, gee, I need to do this. I'm getting hungry. I've got something on tonight. It'd be very easy to be influenced by other factors. But if you're looking at that person emotionally, I don't mean emotionally as in over-emotionally, but if you're looking at that person, as a loved one, then it does drive me. I've done lots of cases where I could have easily stopped, like other surgeons have, But I've carried on thinking, oh my God, if that was my child, I'd want the surgeon to just keep plugging away. I don't care if he's got things on tonight. I want that surgeon to be so focused on my child that he will ignore all those other extenuating circumstances to do the best he can for that child. And believe me, it's very easy not to do that. It's very easy to actually think about self-preservation and self-interest rather than the patient's best interests.
And before I move on to what I've got here on the podcast for today, and the most important part, and that's this incredible philanthropic work you do, what do you wish for in your professional career in the future?
I'd like to make a change. I would like to make a change in the system so that doctors in the future don't have to go through what I've gone through. They can practice medicine that's not based on evidence-based medicine or consensus, and they can practice medicine based on what they believe is in the best interest of their patients and not be criticised, not be condemned, and not be persecuted by their colleagues for doing that.
Yeah, and from where you're at now and what you've been subjected to what you wish for in your future, is that realistic in the foreseeable future that will happen?
No.
Yeah, it's sad,
I hate to sound so pessimistic. No. What's my crime? My crime is that I've put patients first and I've given contrary second opinions and I've had a few bad outcomes. And those bad outcomes, they use then to say, we called the tumour inoperable, you took it out, look what happened, you hurt the patient, you should have listened to us, we're going to take your licence away from you.
Yeah, a bit like while I'm doing this podcast, so they're not there at the forefront pushing the agenda when you do amazing surgery that's successful, are they?
Absolutely not.
So a couple go bad, but what about the hundreds that you've done where you've saved
exactly what happened
life?
At my tribunal. When I was given the Section 150 and told I was a public safety hazard, I said to them, okay, sure, the cases we're discussing today aren't good outcomes, but can I please tell you about the 11,000 brain tumours that I've done, where most of them are good outcomes? They goes, no, stop there, Dr. Teo. We don't want to hear about the good outcomes. We want to talk about the cases that are on the table right now. It was a witch hunt. And they've got no sort of accountability. They can do anything they like. And they can persecute people like me, left, right and centre without any sort of recourse. It's terrible. My legacy, I'd love to make a difference so that they can't do that.
Yeah. So from Dr. Teo, Professor Charlie Teo, now on to Charlie Teo, the philanthropist, which for me is absolutely the reason I am here today. Your foundation's raised over $35 million to fund research and to fund research scientists, both in Australia and internationally. You dedicate 3 months a year to pro bono work internationally in developing countries. You've done some incredible work, and some of the statistics that I've seen, and this is with limited research, are mind-blowing. Brain cancer kills more children than any other disease. I never knew that. 6 people are diagnosed with brain cancer each day. 4 of those will die. And yet there's such limited light shone on brain cancer and fundraising for it, and you're out there at the forefront of it. What was the catalyst for you for the Charlie Teo Foundation?
Oh, it was very simple. Much as people don't like America and Americans, I'm telling you, they're one of the most philanthropic peoples in the world. And I had the great honour of working in America for 10 years, and I was absolutely overwhelmed by the generosity of Americans. I'll never forget one day I came out from surgery and I said, look, the case went well. It would have gone better if I'd had this equipment, but he goes, what equipment? I go, oh, well, we had this equipment, but it failed, and there's new equipment, but we can't afford it. He goes, well, how much would you need to buy that new equipment? I go, well, I don't know, about 100,000. He wrote a check right there and then. So you hear of all this great generosity in America by Americans, and when I came back to Australia, I thought, well, what we need back here is that same mentality, and there's no better way to do it than setting up a foundation, making people aware of it, making it tax deductible, and then going out and saying, listen, if you want to be generous, this is a vehicle, this is a portal by which you can be generous. So that's how it all started. And not only that, there were a few Australians that wanted to donate money after they had successful surgeries, and I didn't know how to sort of channel that money. There weren't many brain cancer foundations when I came back from America. So, yeah, there was an empty space and I grabbed it, essentially.
Yeah, and with the money that's been raised through your foundation and others in the brain cancer research field, is there a cure within reach?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think everyone should be a whole lot more optimistic now about cancer because we know that most cancers have some genetic cause or reason. Before we mapped the human genome, of course, you never knew what abnormal was because you didn't know what normal was. Now that the human genome is mapped, we are doing amazing work on genomics, metabolomics, proteomics, all these studies that previously weren't even around. They would have been part of our language. But now these avenues or these subspecialties are all basically using the human genome mapping as a means of knowing what's abnormal. And once you know what's abnormal, you can then try and modify it or engineer it. And so the reason you are seeing some huge leaps and bounds in cancer research and cancer treatments is because of the advances we've made in the last decade since the human genome was mapped.
Okay, and with all that in mind, what do you think the ultimate result, what does the ultimate cure look like?
I think it's genetic engineering. I really do. I mean, I know that a lot of cancers there's no gene identified, but that's only because we haven't identified it yet. I think the more research we do into genomics and molecular sequencing, the more we will realize that in fact a lot of cancers, if not all of them, have some sort of genetic predisposition or some sort of genetic abnormality.
So you honestly believe with adequate funding and sufficient research, there will be a cure found?
Oh yeah. No. I mean, look at the template. The great example is leukemia. When I was a medical student, we were taught that most people died from leukemia. And now, just 50 or 30 years on, most people survive leukemia. What did that? Awareness, money, research. And that's all you need. You need to raise awareness so that people will then go, oh my God, I had no idea. Let's support that. Then you need to get the money, and then you need to get the scientists involved, all those smart people.
So you've set the foundation up. You've done all this amazing work. You've raised huge amounts of money. You do this pro bono work. What's been the proudest moment for you in the Charlie Teo Foundation?
It was our recent scientific meeting. So the Charlie Teo Foundation had a meeting of all its scientists that we are funding, and they came together for a big sort of think tank, I guess, where every one of them had a few minutes to tell us what they were doing, where they were heading. And so all the scientists from all around the world that we are funding, the Charlie Teo Foundation are funding, were listening in, and what happened then was they said, oh my goodness, I had no idea that was being done. And from that meeting, there were all these collaborative studies, and I thought to myself, oh my God, I never thought I had made a big difference in brain cancer research until then. And then I realized that all the money we'd raised had gone to really, really fruitful and scientifically beneficial projects.
And I would imagine along the way, as your career has, as all of our careers have, within the foundation, you would have had your challenges at times, but has it been increasingly, or has it been more difficult raising awareness in your foundation because it is such an underfunded sector of the health space, brain cancer?
Yeah, look, the biggest aha moment was in fact a negative moment, I'm sorry to say, but as you alluded to, I've had 3 foundations since 2001, the Cure for Life Foundation, Cure Brain Cancer Foundation, and the Charlie Teo Foundation. They're all my babies. They're all sort of nurtured by me and founded by me. And I was really proud of the Cure Brain Cancer Foundation. We had become the peak body, we'd won Charity of the Year, and I was really proud of what we were doing. We were raising almost $20 million a year. And then I got up on stage and gave a talk, as I usually did, and I boasted about how my charity, the Cure Brain Cancer Foundation, ran really lean, with overheads less than 50%. I got off the stage and one of the employees of the foundation said, Charlie, you can't say that anymore. We don't run less than 50%. We run at 78% overheads. And I go, oh my God, you've got to be joking. Why didn't I know this? I was absolutely appalled. And I called an urgent meeting. And it turned out that we were running overheads of over 70%. And as justification to that, some of the board members said, Charlie, we've always been doing that. And not only that, if you go to the ACNC website, the Australian Charities and Non-Profit Commission website, you'll find that a lot of major charities run greater than 50%, some as high as 95%. Certainly, there's a lot in the 80s and a lot in the 70s. And the average is over 50%.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point because it's hard when you're a donor and you're off the street and you're giving money to a foundation. There's this really fine balance between, because there's been so much corruption in this space in the past. When you're giving money, you want to know that you're giving it to a cause that is regulated, a charity that is regulated. And they are so heavily regulated now that you need all this administrative process in place to conform to the regulations. So you're either going to give money to a conforming charity, and a lot of it's going to be chewed up in administration, or you're going to give it to a charity that doesn't have it all in place, and they're probably not doing the right thing anyway. It is a really hard balance.
Oh my God, you're absolutely right, because to justify it, a lot of charities go, well, look, we've got so big, we have to have HR, we have to have this, we have to have that, and they're right, they do. It's so regulated that you have to have those things once you get to that size. Here's my point to you, though, Andrew, and that is when I left the Cure Brain Cancer Foundation, because of that, I set up the Charlie Teo Foundation, and one of my dictums was that we were always going to stay transparent and always run lean. And actually, you can do it. You can do it, because we're raising more than $10 million a year now, and yet we still have only 2 employees. Do we have HR? Absolutely we do, but we do it all voluntarily. Do we have marketing? Absolutely, but it's volunteer. Do we have officers? Yes, it was given to us. I mean, it's hard yakka. You've got to go out there and beg and borrow, but it can be done. And I'd like to think that we are setting the new gold standard across the world, that even a large charity can still run lean with overheads less than 20%, and that's our aim, to run less than 20%.
Yeah, and for a foundation that it's running at gold standard, what's the most important thing? What's at the very forefront of your foundation at the moment?
Well, there are 3 things. Transparency, and that is, I don't want what happened with my previous foundation to ever happen again. So I've insisted that we publish our P&Ls every quarter, and no doctoring. So some charities doctor it to try and reduce their overheads. They call salaries raising awareness. Now, these people are raising awareness, and they put it under a different category. So no doctoring, complete transparency. The next one is running lean, i.e. volunteerism, and keeping your overheads below 20%. And the next one is something that's really interesting. I was taught by a very smart guy that, in fact, if you look at the history of cancer research, much of the great advances were made by out-of-the-box thinkers, not the professors at large universities. These people are often poorly funded. They're very, very smart, but they don't have social skills, for example, so they don't get the funding. And they're the people that find these amazing advances in cancer research. So the third agenda of the Charlie Teo Foundation is to actually try and find those Barry Marshalls of brain cancer research, the real out-of-the-box thinkers who are doing it hard, can't get the funding. I want to support them.
Have you found it difficult to get that buy-in on the volunteer level?
No, there are people out there who want to volunteer. There are people who made a lot of money. They retire at an early age, but still got lots of energy. They used to be CEOs of big companies and they want to put some purpose in their life. No, you go out there and get there. There's plenty of people out there.
There's so many people out there that genuinely want to help.
Yeah.
A lot of them, in fairness to them, a lot of them don't know how to.
Yes.
There's a real gap at the moment between people that are willing to help and yet the
and how to
knowledge
do
on.
it.
And a lot of these big international foundations find it easy because they smash digital media, our social media, our advertorials, ads on TV with ads on how to do it. So ring this number, donate now, jump on this website, donate now.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the smaller foundations simply don't have the financial resources to put marketing out like that. And for that very reason, the average people don't know how to engage with them when you show them how to do it. So many people want to help. I asked you the same question before about your career. Now I'm going to ask it about you and your philanthropic space. Where do you see yourself in the future?
I'd like to be raising money for brain cancer research until I'm 90 years old, and then I'd like there to be a cure where I don't have to raise any more money. Look, if you'd asked me 20 years ago, are we going to find a cure for brain cancer in your lifetime? I would have said, no, probably not. And now I'm going to say, yeah, probably we will. I'm not going to be definitive about it because that would be a little bit arrogant. But if we can keep the momentum going, if we can get people to jump on the bandwagon, if we can influence politicians, if we can get people interested, I think we will find a cure for brain cancer.
Tell me why it's so important to donate to your foundation and brain cancer in general.
There's one very, very, very important emotive answer as well, and that is, if you are concerned about our future, you should be funding brain cancer research. Because what disease kills more of our children, i.e. our future, than any other disease?
Brain cancer.
Brain cancer. It's an absolute no-brainer, because if you are really concerned about our future, what's creating our future? Our children, right? Our children are dying. They're dying from brain cancer, and it's not getting the funding. It is the least funded of all the cancers. It's ridiculous.
I'm going to wrap it up with a quick final 5. If you could meet any one person that you haven't met yet in life, who would it be?
No.
What's been your greatest frustration or controversy in your career? What's been your greatest frustration?
Colleagues.
Yeah. Favourite place you've been in the world?
Cuba.
Really? Didn't expect that answer.
Yeah.
Why Cuba?
There's no sense of materialism there. It's all pure. It's pure. Yeah, you can't tip people. They just don't want it. They're naturally generous and loving, and they're not driven by money at all. It was great. I loved it.
Second last one. Any regrets?
None.
None? Keep doing what you're doing?
One regret, my ex-wife, she's lovely and she was a great wife, and I wish I was a better husband. I wish I'd been a better husband. You can say that in retrospect and all that kind of stuff. I've got a lovely partner now who I wouldn't have met if I'd still been married.
Final one, mate, and most importantly, today's all about the Charlie Teo Foundation. For people out there wanting to help by donating towards a cure for brain cancer, how can they engage with your foundation and how can they help?
2 ways of helping. Raising awareness, in other words, conversations at the dinner table. Oh my God, did you know that brain cancer kills this many people? So raise awareness and raise money.
So guys, for all of the listeners, brain cancer kills more children than any other disease. 6 people are diagnosed with brain cancer each day. 4 of those will die. Don't let it be your kids. Put your hand in your pocket. Get onto Charlie Teo's website and give in all the ways you can. Charlie Teo, thanks for being on the podcast today.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
It's been an incredible journey.
No, it's lovely. Thank you.
A huge thank you to Dr. Charlie Teo for such a truly eye-opening discussion today and for his frank, warm and sincere approach to sharing his journey. Charlie's commitment to helping brain cancer patients survive is unwavering, as is his determination to find a cure. To learn more about the Charlie Teo Foundation and how you can support their cause, check out the show notes for contact details.
To learn more about the art of giving back in whatever way you can, visit our website andrewpurdie.com.au and follow us on Instagram, The Hidden Philanthropist. Thank you for listening to The Hidden Philanthropist podcast, proudly presented by the Purdie Foundation.